Good day. Plenty still to come on this news-filled edition of First Take, including more on the stunning fallout of Jon Gruden. Plus, Ben Simmons' surprising return to Philly and more on Lamar Jackson's heroic performance on Monday Night Football. Back to the top story of the day right now, though. Jon Gruden resigning as head coach of the Raiders in the wake of his racist, misogynistic, and anti-gay emails being exposed during an investigation of the Washington football team. He announced his resignation in a statement on Monday night, shortly after the New York Times reported that he used misogynistic and anti-gay language in numerous emails during a 7-year period that ended in 2018. The Times story came after Adam Schefter reported the NFL had sent the Raiders additional Gruden emails to review, emails that were on top of the one that surfaced last week, in which Gruden used a racist comment in referring to NFLPA Executive Director DeMaurice Smith, and other emails in which Gruden disparaged NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell with a vulgar description. The Raiders said assistant Rich Bisaccia will serve as interim coach. Jon Gruden put out the following statement. I have resigned as head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. I love the Raiders and did not want to be a distraction. Thank you to all the players, coaches, staff, and fans of Raider Nation. I'm sorry. I never meant to hurt anyone. Raiders owner Mark Davis adding, I've accepted Jon Gruden's resignation as head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. So interesting timing. These emails were sent while Jon Gruden was working for ESPN as lead analyst for Monday Night Football, and his resignation announced during Monday Night Football. Spent 9 years in that Monday Night Football booth. Mina Kimes, always a pleasure to have you, and can't wait to hear your reaction to this whole situation. What were your thoughts when this went down, Mina?
Yeah, well, first, it started on Friday, of course, and frankly, after his initial racist comments surfaced, I was a little bit surprised at how many people were giving him the benefit of the doubt, or rather his excuse. Now, as you mentioned, Molly, you've got further racist comments, misogynistic comments, homophobic comments. He went after the NFL for caring about concussions and the racial justice movement, which I feel like has been a little bit lost in this, and he's gone. And I'm not surprised, but I still have a lot of questions. These emails, over many years, by the way, they surfaced as part of the NFL's investigation into the Washington football team's horrible culture under Dan Snyder. And I will tell you this, Jon Gruden is not alone in expressing some of these hateful views. I truly doubt it. I mean, the revelation, frankly, of these comments, it only confirms what a lot of people, myself included, believe, know, suspect, which is that people in power in this league and beyond, the things they say amongst themselves when they are comfortable are different from the things that they say in public. And I believe that investigation, which was not released, should be made public. I think there needs to be more sunlight on all of this and not just on Jon Gruden. And I think this toxic culture needs to be eradicated from the sport that I love.
Let me say this real quick, just as an aside before Keyshawn chimes in here. Jon Gruden's statement, that last sentence, I never meant to hurt anybody. Well, rhetorically, I'll throw out this question. It wouldn't have hurt Eric Reed to get fired? It wouldn't have hurt women if they weren't allowed to be officials? It wouldn't have hurt Michael Sam if he was never drafted at all because of his sexual orientation? What do you mean you didn't mean to hurt anybody?
Yeah.
You actually did. That was the intent. He didn't feel Michael Sam should be in this league. He didn't feel women should be officiating. He didn't feel that Eric Reed should be in the league. I think that would have hurt people. And so when you see that and it's inconsistent, and then you see the press conference and he's talking about, I really don't want to talk about this anymore. That's what Jon Gruden had said at the press conference the other day, just trying to determine how other people would come at him and what have you. You just see that this is really something that had to happen. There's no way around it.
Well, he says all those sort of things he didn't want to talk about anymore because he's been in control and in power.
Right.
So he wanted to try to force that will on everybody. And like I said on my show, no, you don't get to tell people when they can't have a conversation about what you did that was a very bad thing. That's not your choice anymore. Right. You gave that right up when you put them emails out there and they got publicized for people to see. And so at that point in time, again, I go back to the Raiders, however they arrived to the decision, whether it was resigning, fired, whatever decisions was made, they made the right choice to move on from him coaching the team. It was a failed experiment. It certainly was. But I also would say this about John. He's got some soul searching to do, because if you think that you didn't mean to hurt anybody, like you said, Stephen A., there's a lot of people that could have been hurt, feelings are hurt, feel a certain way now, going to be looked at totally different in terms of the way that they view him. And so he's got a lot of soul searching to do with his family. He's put his family in a difficult situation because I'm sure that they probably didn't know that this exists. Now, they've got to answer questions at the country club or at the grocery store, or the son who's a trainer and a weightlifter. He's got to now have people looking at him a certain way. So you think about all of those things.
Or your brother who was coaching in the league.
Or your brother who was coaching in the league. People are now going to look at Jay and be like, well, the apple don't fall too far from the tree. Even though Jay is a good guy. I like Jay.
Right.
Like, I rock with Jay. But now you're sitting back and you're going to yourself, well, wait a minute. But wait, if that y'all align with each other, you start to, all these dominoes, like Mina said, he's not the only one. So whoever else is involved is certainly holding their breath, Mina.
Go ahead, Mina.
That's a really good point. And frankly, I was really frustrated watching his players have to answer for his black players answering for his comments on Friday. And now with this latest batch of emails, you know, many people pointed out the NFL's first active player, Carl Nassib, is a Raider. By the way, he's been having a great season, which is besides the point, but I want to mention, I don't want him to have to answer for this. If he wants to speak on it, you know, more power to him. But it frustrates me, it angers me so much that John Gruden has put his black players in a terrible position last week. He's put Nassib in a difficult position now. And to Keyshawn's point, your intent might have been different. I disagree with that, but whatever, that's the excuse. But the consequences are many people feel hurt by these comments, and your own players now have to answer for them, shouldn't have to. And that's why I think we're going so hard on him, because not going so hard, but he's been subject to so much criticism. You are the NFL coach, and what that means is you're supposed to be a leader. You are responsible for others. That is why all of those players now have to answer for this, and I frankly think it stinks.
The great thing, though, about answering for it, though, Mina, is the locker room can now rally around Rich Bisaccia, who I know, who's the interim coach, a longtime special teams coach that I jump on the table for, that I don't have any worries about whatsoever. Because when you are a special teams coach, as you know, Mina, you deal with everybody.
Yeah.
There is no offense, defense, kicker, punt. You deal everybody, all 53 people you deal with, because they're part of your unit. So I think this will last a couple of days as far as the Raiders go, and then they'll be able to move on with a new leader in charge. It still will hover around Gruden, and there'll still be conversations, but for the most part, Stephen A., it'll go away from inside the locker room.
There is, Mina, Molly, Keyshawn, there is a silver lining here. Because you see, he said what he said in those emails. He said it in an environment that showed the existence of this kind of clique.
Yeah.
All right? It raised eyebrows. It alarmed us all. And it reminded us that it's real easy to do in an environment like the NFL. Because when you don't have diversity amongst ownership,
yes,
when you have limited diversity amongst management, then obviously you combine that with a hard salary cap and the level of restrictions that you're able to place on a franchise because of the heavy hand that you wield. You're able to get away with so much more than you'd ever be able to get away with, say, in some place like the NBA or in various places in corporate America. Now, obviously, there are some places in corporate America, they still got these issues. You got bosses, white bosses in corporate America right now looking at all of us like we the problem. You know, John Gruden, what he said, what's the big deal and what have you. You got that going on. We all know that, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, but at the end of the day, what it highlights is the need to address diversity or lack thereof in ownership and management positions. And why do I bring that up? Because when the whole Colin Kaepernick situation went down, and then ultimately years later, Jay-Z got involved in the mix, and everybody was lamenting, you know, Hov, I mean, why he got to be there, why he got to be doing business with the NFL. You know why? Because he's in that room.
Yeah.
And when and being in that room, when it's time for an ownership stake to be granted for somebody, he might be in a position where he ends up getting an ownership stake. And as a result, diversity will be in the mix. And when you have that level of diversity, they can't go around willy-nilly communicating like that and acting like that and thinking they're going to wield some level of power, because there are people that don't look like them, don't share their pigmentation or hue or cultural identity. And as a result, they've got to educate themselves to such a degree so they can act accordingly. And that's what makes the world a better place.
Real quick, I know we need to go to break, and I know you'll be back with us later, Mina, but I wanted to get your thoughts on this because I just found it so egregious. What did you think of the fact of the player health and safety issue, how he was diminishing, protecting the players, and you're making your money on their bodies? And we know the detrimental effects of CTE, the long-term health, and how awful they are.
Yeah, I'm glad I feel like that's been a little bit overlooked in all of this. I mean, granted, there's so much content in these emails. It's hard to focus on one thing. But yes, you know, he talked about the NFL's initiative to reduce concussions and basically mocked Roger Goodell. It's so regressive. All of this is so regressive. It's so outdated. The sport is moving in a different direction from John Gruden. And to me, that on that particular issue, along with race and gender and all of that, that signifies to me he has no place in this sport. Because the way the NFL is going, we need coaches and we need leaders who care about not only inclusivity and being a good leader, but also player health. And making a comment like that tells me he didn't care enough.
Well, the other thing I want to bring up, Mina, because you just brought up something and you reminded me of something that I had said yesterday. John Gruden won the title, Super Bowl championship, Tony Dungy's team, but nevertheless, he got this first year, won the Super Bowl championship in 2002. He coached in Tampa the next 6 years. He made the playoffs twice. He comes to Oakland before moving to Las Vegas years later. What, a 10 or 11-year hiatus. Yeah. He comes back, having not coached on any level for 11 years. He gets $100 million over 10 years.
Well, we don't know.
And by the way, bonuses that could lift it to 118. Little birdie, little source told me that years ago. So, and you know, just incentive later, $18 to $20 million. You don't have anybody that's getting that kind of contract. And so I bring that up to say the man has coached essentially 10 years and has 2 playoff appearances in 10 years. And everybody was walking around talking about him like he was Bill Belichick. Yeah. Now, that ain't white privilege. I don't know what the hell is.
Well, I'm sorry to cut you off. We do have to.
That's all I had to say.
Mina, we'll get back to you. Thank you for your perspective. Always appreciate that. All right, still to come, guys. Let's not forget the Raiders are still very much in the thick of it in the A.